All right, guys, last time we were with this car, we fired it up. Now we're ready for a rip, right? Not so fast. Welcome to VTEC Academy. I got schooled. Lots of things have happened since we were last with this car.
Exactly. There's some big changes that happened
Yeah.
with our Type S.
Yeah,
Type S gear, and we're gonna have
Looking good.
to get a little something added there.
Yeah,
TSX.
need a TSX in there. I'm not sure why they left that out. But anyway, we got this thing fired up, and that's when the problem started.
Yeah, dude, it sounded so wicked. It sounded like
It sounded pretty bad.
it sounded like a hot rod, and then you're just driving this sedan with the super high suspension on it,
Yeah, rally spec.
completely under the radar.
Yeah. So when we decided to make exhaust, I happened to have some Skunk 2 exhaust. We had to weld up cat delete, because again, race car for it. And that car sounded so good like that.
Oh yeah.
It was really, really good. First problem we ran up against was the clutch. It wasn't disengaging. Now, just to kind of let you know what's going on with this has a spec flywheel, a spec pressure plate, and spec clutch disc. And we thought, oh crap, something happened to it. The car had been raced. We decided to change the clutch. So first thing we needed to do was decide whether or not we're going to drop the motor, because we could do it with just pulling the transmission off, but we decided to drop the motor. So we dropped the motor out, took the transmission off, and the clutch looked fine.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely fine.
And the guy that we got it from raced on it for a whole season. It was perfectly fine.
Yeah, and he said it worked absolutely flawlessly when he was having it. So clutch
just
was
our
not the
luck.
problem.
Just
Yeah.
our luck.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that our dried out master cylinder and dried out slave cylinder on this car that sat for years and years over next door, it was no longer up to snuff, and we were having a problem with it. So something else happened while we had the motor out.
Oh yeah, major developments. You pull the engine to inspect everything and figure out what's going on, and you got a call from a friend.
Yeah, call from a friend, and you'll meet him when we get the car here. But he said he had a fully caged TSX that he wasn't racing and that he wanted to bring down, and that we could use it for the V6 project. So we are going to have a fully built race car, put our J series in that, and that should be good. So if this was not going to be a race car, what should it be?
A street car, of course.
A street car. So we decided to do a little bit different. First thing, we needed an engine. So it just so happened that Jason Davidson was in town. Friend, you know him, you might know him from Instagram as
Tail of the wagon.
Tail of the Wagon.
And the do-gooder that hands out parts to people wherever he goes.
That's right. So he and I took off to salvage yard. We found a J35 and a TL Type S that was there, and we decided to pull that motor.
So, dang it, we're gonna have to go with a bigger engine.
Right, exactly. So 300 horsepower instead of a 3.2, which was what, 260 or whatever it was. So we got our 3.5 liter, got that. So I needed a different transmission too, because I didn't want to waste the really good differential that was in the race motor transmission. So I looked around and I found a transmission we were going to use on the drag car, had a factory LSD in it. It was a 6-speed TL gearbox. So we got that and found a stock clutch, put that together and stuck it in the car, bled the clutch, and everything worked fine.
Like
So,
stock.
Yeah, that's right. So, time to take it for a rip. Not so fast.
Of course. What was missing?
The brakes.
We need those to stop, or
Yeah.
what's going on?
If you're going fast, you need to go stop fast. So, anyway, pedal would go right to the floor. We spent an hour trying to bleed it. We bled it the normal way. We back bled it. Nothing was happening. Kind of assumed again, dried out from all the years of just sitting over in the next yard, not doing anything. So, bought another master cylinder. We found it. We put it in place. Got the brakes to work. Oh, another problem. We put the J35 in,
Oh yeah.
and our cool pipes that don't have catalytic converters didn't work. Luckily, we're making a street car, so I went on Amazon, found some catalytic converter down pipes, purchased those. They of course fit, and those are in the car as well. So it doesn't sound quite as vicious as it did before, but it still sounds pretty dang good.
Well, you guys will hear it. It sounds good. It just doesn't sound wild.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we got our new engine in the car. Let's take a look at it, see what it looks like. This is our J35 that comes out of the 2007, 2008 Acura TL. It's 300 horsepower stock. It is a really nice stock motor that produces as much horsepower as almost any of the other engines. I think the only one that produces more is there's a TL motor, that's a 3.7 that might produce another 5 horsepower. Anyway, we have our Hasport prototype kit for doing engine swaps. Now, some people have said they've used stock mounts to get this in here. We didn't want to do that because you would have to buy the stock subframe. That also tends to widen the track a little bit. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to be able to put as big a tire on here as possible, and by pushing them out, it actually reduces the amount of tire we can put on it. Plus, it's going to change the suspension geometry, so that's why we have the Hasport swap mounts for it. Plus, you can use it with a stock TSX subframe. And once this is out, by the way, it should work as well for the Accord. We'll have to test that to make sure that's correct, but it should work in the Accord as well. All right, so we went with the larger size battery that usually comes with the J series on there, although we need to figure out a way to attach that in there, because right now it's got a piece of wood that's kind of holding it in.
I don't think we'll pass tech with that.
I won't pass tech, but for our purpose of just, driving around, it should be fine. We haven't actually tuned this thing yet. We're using the Honda swap ECU in this car. Now, we can actually switch over to a TL ECU now rather than using the swap ECU, because this wiring is exactly like it is for an 0708 TL, which is important because we've decided to go ahead and make it street legal. As a matter of fact, the only thing we need to do is we need to add the secondary catalytic converter in here. We have our 2 primary cats on here. Now we need to add the secondary one, and this should be totally legal for getting it registered and all that sort of stuff. We could also opt to register it as a collector car, but let's just go ahead and get it registered properly and be totally legal, and that should all be fine.
And just keep it simple.
That's right.
Keep it simple.
The transmission is from a TL. It's actually from a TL Type S early style, not the newer style block. I actually took all the guts out of the earlier transmission and transplanted them into a later set of cases, and that gives me basically the ability to bolt it up to the 2008 TL. The only real difference I found beside the cases was there's a tube in there that ports oil, and that was a little bit different. So otherwise all the part numbers were the same. So I'm anxious to get to the dyno. With a little bit of tuning, I want to see if it makes more than 300 horsepower. That would be cool.
I think it's terrific. It looks like it belongs in here, and if it's going to be dead stock reliable, which is huge, because a lot of times, not with the stuff that we've had, although some stuff has been a little bit sketchy, when you're doing something like the first time you're doing a swap on something like this, it's not always easy, and you're kind of figuring it out as you're going along. Yeah. So it looks
This one looks super clean.
It looks super clean.
Yeah, it looks like it belongs in there.
And everything clears. There's nothing. It's
nothing
like
weird.
It's exactly like the Type S Acura should have built.
Yeah. Type S.
Can you imagine this back in the day, hunting down like M3s?
It would have been unbeatable on the track.
Yeah,
it would have been unbeatable.
I mean, it was hanging with them on the track as it is, but with all that usable power band, it would have just been. They probably would have put more regulations on it to slow it down. Actually,
that's for sure. It's a little bit more toned down, but it still sounds really, really good. And I think it's time to take it for a rip.
Oh my gosh, it's going to sound so good, especially when you get into VTEC at the top end.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it sounds kind of, I've heard it described as, oh, it just sounds like a little V6 now. But I think when you get on it, it's going to sound really good.
I think it's going to sound great. So we're going to take this thing out, do our 8th mile run with it. It's got some really crappy old tires. The tires aren't crappy, they're really old. Got some really old tires on it. So I'm not expecting great things from it, but it's fast. I took it for a little spin around the block.
It's kind of a fair comparison because a lot of our projects, we haven't put on new tires.
We never do
just for baseline testing.
Exactly. They're almost always 3-4 years old, race car tires. Exactly. Yeah. So these are, I think, about 10 years old. So, but there's no cracks in them, so I feel like they're safe. But anyway, we're going to take it out to our 8th mile. We're going to run it down the thing. Let's see how it performs. All right, so we are in the J-powered TSX, and we're going to go take it down our little 8th mile track, see how it does. Took it for a little rip around the block the other day, felt pretty dang strong. Again, we are on a base tune with the Honda J-Swap ECU. That means we don't have a lot of things hooked up, secondary O2, things of that nature. We will actually hook those up because we are going to make this car street legal. We have catalytic converters on here. We just need to add the 3rd cat, which is the 2 pre-cats are on. We need to add the 3rd cat on it. But no problem, we can do that here relatively quickly. All right, our AIM Solo DL is clear. Brake pedal's a little soft. 1083. Faster than some, slower than some. Let's go do a second run just to back it up and see how it is. One of the cool things about using the swap ECU is we should be able to get traction control to work with this thing too. So if we were ever to add boost, we should be able to actually control our traction control with the Honda traction control. All clear in front. Bouncing off the rev limiter that time. That is very exciting. Did a 1055 that time, a little bit quicker. Before we tracked attention, we're going to go ahead and head back to the shop. Probably could have done a little bit better without bouncing off the rev limiter. We got a few more miles per hour. I think we were 77 that last time and 79 this time. That engine feels so strong. That's so nice. By the way, something else about this, we're running on gas that's probably 4 years old in this gas tank. I wanted to kind of drain it out a little bit before we put the fresh gas in it. We'll be doing that here in the next couple days before we take it to the dyno. We'll also do make sure that we have premium in it. So I'll be curious to see what it does off the base tune and then after we tune it as well. So that should be very interesting. Boy, that suspension feels bouncy. And I assume it's because it's old and worn out. But it could be because of the quality of the road and the hardness of these tires. That's another thing we'll do before we take it out the next time. We'll turn these tires in for something a little fresher. Maybe we'll get a little bit better hookup. I'm gonna lower the car, do a few other things to it, but we will have a part 3 to this video. Right now we're going to take a quick look, see how it's stacked up against the other cars. Well guys, I think that's going to conclude it for this particular video. Please, if you want to see more on this build, please think about liking and subscribing. And we will be doing more things with this car, including bringing it to the track to see how it does. The other day during the live, Carter thought that this was going to be the funnest of all the vehicles that we have. Double wishbone suspension, the J-Series engine, in a large comfortable car, and I kind of agree with him. I think this car is going to be fantastic. Stay tuned for the next episode. Talk to you later.